Hey, good morning, social media friends and business partners, relationships that help myself and my co-host Rick Batista in this business that we're in, where we help many of you, maybe all of you, with your real estate life events. And with that said, let me welcome my co-host into the studio and add him to the conversation. Hola, Rick.
Hola, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Should I say Guillermo?
Yeah, estoy bien. ¿Y tú?
Muy bien, gracias.
Sí. So, Rick, um, compared to our recent last episode just four weeks ago to now, I would agree with you that I think the spring market has started. The weather has broken, right?
Yeah, spring has sprung, without a doubt. I was thinking of some movie quotes that can kind of help people relate to who you are in the market today. And with sellers, if you remember the Mel Brooks classic Men in Tights, toward the end of the movie, it's good to be the king, or queen these days. And with buyers, it's Norm from Cheers. He had a great line in there. It's a dog eat dog world, and I'm wearing milk bone underwear.
Yeah.
And then with renters, the rental market has been pretty brutal. That one's the dad from A Christmas Story when he was just saying all these expletives when the furnace would break down or something. It's been brutal out there.
Those are some great personas that you described, and I would not disagree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with you. The personas that you describe are absolutely spot on. Now, you said, for renters, it's kind of brutal. Let's start with that. Is that because, renters, right? They're kind of at the mercy of the landlord. Are landlords being more particular about who they rent to, and or are they thinking about, they're scratching their head, they're thinking about selling?
Landlords are thinking about selling. I do get renters calling me, whether they're inquiring about the listing I have or they're looking for me to represent them, to help them find a rental. And oftentimes it's the seller who, their landlord's looking to sell, so they need to move.
Right.
And then there's times where the landlord, they got to pay their bills, right?
Right.
Are some landlords greedy? Yes, without a doubt. I don't think all of them are. A lot of them are, mom and pop investors, and they just have everything going up just like everybody else, with property taxes and water bills and stuff like that. So they have to raise the rent. I mean, they bought it to be an investment, not to be, not to have a loss every month. So, so a lot of renters just have to deal with the price increase. And even if they go in the last two rental seasons, the last two spring seasons, a lot of renters have called me, asked me to set up a search for them, people I've worked with in the past. And once they see that, even with the price hike where they're at now, they're better off just staying where they're at. So they just renew the lease because they can't get what they have for the same price or less. And then they're just not, they're either still in the process or they haven't even begun the process to set themselves up to buy something. I would say the majority of renters want to buy something, eventually. Some people probably just want to rent their entire lives, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
That's true.
But a lot of renters want to be owners one day.
Yeah, they do. That's on their horizon. Whether it be a couple of years, 5 years, 7 or 10, whatever, it's within their horizon. So
I would say to the renters out there, so real quick, but the renters out there who say, "Oh, let me save for another year, and I'll just see how things are next year because prices are going to go down." It's kind of like taking a semester off of college. You just don't go back sometimes.
Yeah.
So don't put it off too long. If you're in a good position to buy something, try and get your foot in the door of home ownership sooner than later.
Yeah. Time has a funny way of moving the dollar signs attached to the things that we need, that we want, and that fuel our life events, right? So back to sellers. You're absolutely right. Sellers are kings right now.
The
That's
ones who are crying are the ones who hit the market too high, and and
true.
and their house is sitting on the market for. I mean, in my opinion, if you're in most markets, I mean, higher end is a completely different story. But if you're in the affordable housing range, you know, if you're definitely under 500 in the state of Chicago, in
Yeah,
Chicago, under 750, 800, you know, if you're on the market for more than 30, 45 days, it's probably the place.
yeah.
You know,
It's probably price, meaning you seller. That's you. So let's get this lovely woman to call you out. That's you sellers, being just a little too greedy, and or I'm gonna say it. You don't have to say it. And or they're just kind of misguided by a real estate professional because of not knowing how to price that property, that home, effectively to sell in the right time frame. Correct?
Very true, and there are some of my colleagues, and I mean, I've been guilty of this in the past, especially early on in my career, where you just want to get the listing, you know, and you can get the listing because I've had that where I was too honest with my clients in the sense that I didn't have that tough conversation. And you know what, you want to price it, whatever you want to price it, that's fine. But if it doesn't sell in the next, again, depending on the market, the time of year, if it doesn't sell within X amount of time, a week or two, we need to seriously consider lowering the price.
Yeah.
And some people just don't want to have that conversation from the get-go.
Yeah.
If you're good enough at having the conversation, you'll help them see the benefits of pricing it right. Because it's interesting when you have to price the when you first hit the market, the price that people see for the first time, it can either make or break you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to have those tough conversations from the get-go.
Yeah. I know in our business, Rick, we have clients that want to hear only what they want to hear, as opposed to the truth and the reality. And you and I both know that in our business, we have sometimes some of our peers who cannot support and defend their plan and their value.
Yeah.
And when one of those or when both of those occur in a relationship, it's never a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Professional and personal, they go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's never a good one. So buyers are challenged right now because you've heard me share this with you, Rick. They're caught in the game of musical chairs.
Yeah.
There's only so many homes for sale, so many chairs on the floor. Someone's not going to get to sit down and get that home, correct?
Yeah, a lot of people want it, but not everybody's going to get it.
So what's your advice to these buyers?
Make sure you're working with a good realtor that has experience in multiple bid situations.
Right.
When I don't like certain tools that we have out there,
Okay.
like the mortgage gap addendum. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm sorry, the appraisal gap addendum. I'm not a huge fan of it at all because I never want my clients to be overpaying for a house. But if you look at it, my biggest question to them is how long you plan to stay there. If you're going to be staying there for 5-10 years, then you're going to make that money back in equity and then some. So you're not overpaying it in that sense. But if you're just going to buy it, just to buy it, and you don't know where you're going to be 1 to 3 years from now, then maybe don't go that route.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's tools out there. We just need to give them the guidance, the information, so that they can make the best decision possible. At the end of the day, it's their decision. And what's meant for them is going to happen. It just have a better chance of happening when you got somebody in your corner that knows the market really well.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Commit to work with someone that you know and trust and can appreciate and value an honest conversation, right? Yeah. It's the two words that are so appropriate these days. Seller beware, buyer beware, right? If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck.
Right. Yeah. Now, in our previous episode, maybe not the recent one, but certainly within the previous like 60 days or 90 days, I know you and I shared this visual aid with our social audience. Let me bring that up again.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen this before with me, right?
Yeah.
And that is this. How do the demographics change in the current market that we're in? Would you agree? Most sellers right now are kind of coming from the baby boomer demographics, right?
Certainly my own, I mean, from the data I'm seeing and my own personal experience, yeah.
Okay. And then would you agree the median age of buyers, let's keep it simple, first-time buyers, I think it's kind of pushed up a few years beyond 35. I think it's approaching like just under 40 years of age, right?
Yeah, I mean, of first-time buyers,
Yes.
I mean, I've seen a mixed bag, but I mean,
Okay.
if we're going with median, then I'd say that's about right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, having said this, let me drop this visual aid and graphic as part of our conversation. The baby boomers and beyond who are selling their homes, their properties that they have owned, occupied, and loved for the past 20 years, is this safe to say maybe 5 out of 10 of them, the properties may be a little dated, maybe a little distressed? What's your opinion to that?
Might be even higher than 5 out of 10.
Might really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
What would you say? 7 out of 10?
6.5. We'll go 6.
6.5.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you, my friend.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. So with that, social friends, today, Rick and I are honored to welcome a guest who's shared his time with us to join us virtually. So let's welcome Gerald into today's live stream conversation. And I'm going to share this with you, social friends. What Rick and Gerald share in common, these two gents come from what I call their legacy of family businesses. So with all of that said, let's add Gerald into the conversation. And Gerald, am I correct? You're a legacy as well.
Absolutely. We both have very similar backgrounds.
Yeah. What's it like working with your parents back in the day when both of you were young?
It was excellent for me. I mean, just the knowledge that you gain and the passion that someone is giving to you to help instill this knowledge in you, that's going to be a life lesson that you will carry on for your entire life, that you can then share with others as well as your children. I think that was the most enjoying benefit from all of this here. And then being able to share my experiences with individuals when I'm out in the field doing my profession, and really treat them like they're one of my children. I may not look as old as I am, but I have some age on me. And share with them that, I want to share with you my knowledge, my experience, because when you're making a financial commitment to purchase a home, it's one of the largest purchases you will ever make in your life. And it's very important to have the right team around you because, as Rick mentioned earlier, trusted individuals is very important in this industry because so many people have been misled down the wrong path and they're suffering from it.
Yeah. Rick, would you echo that comment? You also are a legacy from a family business, right?
Yeah, I mean, my parents got their real estate license back in '87, and I hung out at the office from the age of 12 on and worked there, and it was fun time. That the people in the office became kind of like they did become like a second family to me.
Yeah.
And now my wife and I own the company, so we're continuing the family atmosphere.
Wonderful. So, Gerald, you heard us kind of banter about the current demographics of sellers, buyers, and I leaned in to say, hey, Rick, where would you pin it on a scale of 1 to 10? Is it 5 out of 10 at least that most of the sellers who might be predominantly baby boomers, they may be selling a property that's, let's call it gently dated, slightly distressed, needs some TLC. Is that what you're seeing as well, Gerald?
Yeah, absolutely. And I cover multiple areas. So, whether it's in the city or the suburbs or the rural areas, I would say it's in that 5 to 6 percentile. 5 out of 6 or 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 properties are definitely dated.
Yeah. So give us a snapshot for the social friends who may not know you, who may not be connected to you on social media. What is it that you do, Gerald?
So I am a retired general contractor for over 40 years. I am currently a HUD consultant. Um, Basically, a HUD consultant is one that goes out and inspects a property to identify the various deficiencies within the property, to be able to price out material and labor to help the buyers understand if this is a property that fits within their financial means, that maybe they've had a pre-approval that they could purchase a property for 300,000, but only 100,000 is available of that 300 that they qualify for renovation work. So my job is to go out and identify the work that needs to be done to bring that to from health and safety perspectives, for a homeowner to be able to move their family into.
Yeah, true that. So Rick, let's call it like it is. I am sure some of the properties that you sold probably fit in that descriptor, right? Maybe where you have had to add the 2 words, sold as is.
Sold as is, where it stands. Like, what you see is what you get.
And what you see is what you get. Yeah. And that means, read in between the lines, social friends, for you to buy it because you want it to look a certain way for you. You just might need to transform it, modernize it to today's standards and or your own personal standards. So, Gerald, I think what you're saying is, given your business as a renovation consultant, you work intimately with real estate brokers and, of course, someone like myself, mortgage professionals, correct?
You are the very 2 that I work with.
There we have it. So, social friends, if you might be, right, you're scratching your head, you're looking at an as-is property being sold by Rick, and you're like, how do I transform this? Well, in this relationship of your real estate life events, you most undoubtedly will have conversations starting with Rick, bouncing between Gerald and myself to figure out, how do you buy the property as is, and how do you finance as much of the dollars allow of the renovation? So, Gerald, what are some of, let's start with an easy question. With some of the projects that you worked on, what was the largest dollar amount of renovation that you had to write up an estimate for?
Well, doing a Fannie Mae home style, the conventional side loan product, I've written them up close to $1 million. I've actually written them up over $1 million, the initial walkthrough. And then, of course, based on loan limits and the structure of the loan, we have to then downsize the scope of work to fit within the loan limits. So I would say somewhere right around 700,000 would be the largest Fannie Mae home style that I've done. So maybe I'm not sure what the purchase price was, but I'm sure it had to be somewhere around 800,000-900,000 for the property. And then they turned around and put 700 in. Yeah. And then, of course, they went outside of that scope and did additional work out of pocket. And it ended up being close to $1 million renovation project. So there's not like a limitation, I should say, because of different variations of loan products that are out there that you can share with the buyers, to meet their needs, whether it's a homeowner that just wants to buy a property and it needs appliances and maybe some floor covering, or maybe they just want to repaint the home, to those that want to add an addition, second floor, or, just total gut renovation of that property.
Yeah. Are are the gut renovations more challenging for you to do that SOR, scope of renovation, as opposed to the light or somewhere in the medium? What's your opinion to that?
No, actually, the gut renovations, the total guts, are the easiest to do sometimes because
Start all over.
literally, yeah, you're starting over. So and then there's less unexpected things that come up during construction because the scope encompasses everything. So when you know you're going in and you're gutting a property, you know you're going to reframe the inside of the property, you're going to insulate it, all new mechanical,
Yeah.
plumbing, electrical. So there's not a lot of change orders that are going to come up in those type of projects versus one that you go into and you have to really inspect every facet of that property, from the roof to the electrical, the plumbing, the mechanical. What's the condition of it? Was it installed properly? Did the prior owners pull the necessary permits? Do we know
Right.
what's hidden behind the walls? Then they gut it, and then all of a sudden there's termite damage. There's garden hoses used to connect to water lines to get water from the basement to the second floor. I've seen some of everything. So
Yeah.
I would say the more challenging ones are those that are not complete gut renovations versus the gut renovations.
Yeah. Rick, do you recall the movie Tom Hanks was in, Forrest Gump, and that movie cliche we've probably heard more times than not, which is uh, you never know what you're going to get with a box of chocolates?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
My,
I
my,
use that cliche a lot when I have my conversations with clients that are looking to me to deliver renovation financing, because Gerald, hopefully you're going to laugh, nod your head, and kind of smile. When it comes to renovation, it's kind of like Pandora's box. Once you open things up, you don't know what you're going to get.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
I thought you were going to reference the Tom Hanks movie, The Money Pit.
The money pit as well.
Yeah.
Well, that tends
It's,
to have the negative
yeah.
connotation for all three of our businesses, which is don't spend your money on real estate. We don't want to say that.
No. Question for both of you, actually. When I'm working with my seller clients, or words of encouragement for buyer clients, when it comes to renovation loans, whether somebody's getting a conventional loan or an FHA 203K rehab loan, it does become a little bit challenging when you're in a multiple bid situation. It's kind of hard to compete against cash. It's kind of hard to compete against a conventional loan. What could you, again, to encourage buyers out there, supportive words, or to give a little bit of peace of mind to sellers out there? If somebody's coming in with this type of loan, what could you say to them?
Gerald, you want to
consider?
Yeah.
Could you repeat that first part of the question again?
Just when I'm working with seller clients, right, we're looking at multiple bid situation. You're dealing with a cash loan, a conventional loan, and then construction loans or 203K loans.
Right.
There tends to be a lot of question marks around the latter two, right? And then so you're up against cash deals and conventional loans. And then typically, depending on the situation, usually, especially if it's a place that needs a full renovation, the highest cash offer is going to be better than any mortgage contingency, because there's just too many question marks.
Sure.
But there are situations where properties have been sitting in the market for a long time too, where there might be less competition, and you're not going to have cash buyers jumping all over it. But buyers who are looking to buy this type of property, they're renting right now. They still got another 6 months on their lease, so they have time to fix up the property. They're living with family right now. They have flexibility. They don't have to move into the house right away, but the place needs a total renovation. What kind of, because a lot of buyers can be discouraged, going that route, especially with the inventory so low and stuff like that. It's like, how are we going to compete with a cash buyer or a conventional buyer? And then again, on the flip side, what kind of words of wisdom can you share with sellers out there, to say, hey, you know what, maybe you should consider this type of buyer?
Yeah. So, it's a great question from a seller's perspective. Of course, a seller is looking to move their product. So the cash offer is always the most enticing offer to them because they figure it's a quicker closing and what have you. But cash offers often fall off the table as well. Maybe how they write their contract and the contingencies within the contract, they may fall off. Whereas a buyer, not an investor, but an actual buyer that wants to occupy that space, they're taking a liking to the area as well as the property. So it's like, everything has to be the right situation when you go to look at a property. Is this the right fit for my family? Is the transportation what I need surrounding? Is it close to everything? So from a seller standpoint, I think they just have to have a heart sometimes and understand with individuals, and we're all human, and it's not always about the dollar. It's about what's the right thing to do here. And if it takes extra couple of weeks for the closing to process, how they feel about it, and if they were to put their self in the buyers that are coming to them, their situation, how would they look at it? And a lot of times, you have sellers out here that are, conscious of these type of things, and they want to put the right buyers in their properties because of how that's going to affect their neighbors that they lived around for so long. So I think, it just depends on the seller itself. What's the makeup of the seller? Because, if you look at a lot of the neighborhoods back in the day, they were predominantly, owner occupied. And now certain neighborhoods have renters in neighborhoods, and those homeowners that have been there for 30, 40, 50, 60 years in some neighborhoods, they talk and they want to do the right thing for, the relationships that they built over the years and keep those neighborhoods, where they're really it's like a family. It's like your neighbors are your extended family. So it's hard to say what the seller should do, but I think the seller should really evaluate it. It's different when you have a seller that has bought a property, never occupied the property. They've rented it out for multiple, years, and now they just want to dump the property. So they're just looking to sell it to whoever brings the money to the table first. Who can get me to the closing? So I ask that, people just respect other people's, that surround these properties, and thinking how they would want to be treated if they were on the other side.
And I do have sellers who do think about that, and not everybody wants to see the love letters that come with offers and stuff, but sellers do tend to ask, like, are they investor? Are they going to knock my house down? Are they going to renovate? Are they going to live here? So I do have sellers that are thinking about that, whether or not the money the money wins over that decision, or that hard point. But some people are mindful of that.
I'll lean in and give my perspective to that question, Rick. I think for the seller who may be considering those different options, as a mortgage professional, I always offer to the brokers representing the seller, would you like to have a conversation with me so that I can reinforce in your mind how qualified the buyer is who may be financing the purchase of the property as is. And of course, they're going to have to do some renovation because they're going to live in it. And so that's really step one. Step two, for those of you who are buyers listening and watching today's video, do not hesitate to take advantage of your mortgage professional to move you past being just qualified or pre-approved. Go ahead, commit the slight amount of time and effort to get fully approved, whether it be for a traditional loan, renovation financing, and or discuss other paths, other alternatives that may just be more good planning. That's my response to that question. So audience members, as we're talking about this, let me now share with you as a visual aid what we just talked about, right? Whether you are paying cash to buy subject property, maybe you're sourcing a traditional loan, you're gonna use your own money for the renovation, or perhaps in the times that we're in right now, you want to hold on to more of your cash, and you need to finance the purchase of this ugly duckling property and the renovation. There are solutions for this. And for those of you who are maybe investors, there's also ways to finance your acquisition of a property short term so that you don't have to use up as much of your cash. So, knowing this is really the key to success. And so, as we wrap up today's episode of Real Living in Chicagoland, I want to first thank Gerald for sharing your time as a recurring guest and a lot of my live stream video content. You are always a wealth of knowledge. Love hearing your stories, and to be quite honest, love really hearing the realities of what's going on. So, for Rick and myself, how can you, social friends, reach out to us to start a conversation? All you need to do is simply scan the QR codes that you see here, whether you are looking to sell a property, looking to buy a property, whether it's ready to go, a little bit distressed, a little bit dated. Both of us can help you with your real estate life events. Let me ask my music posse to play us out. Rick and I will see you in the next episode 4 weeks out. Here we go, music posse.